18 increases in the minimum wage.
The minimum wage as it is today.
Are struggling. Raise the minimum wage.
Folks, it's long past due to increase the minimum wage.
My name's Alexis. I work at McDonald's. I'm actually a manager there.
How long did you work as a crew member?
Well, I was about 3.5 years before I got promoted. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I figured my plan wasn't to stay there that long, yeah. But I'm still going to college as well. It's hard living like we do. I'm only 21, a single mom, working and going to school, and it's hard. I mean, right now, I don't really pay a lot of rent, like $100 a month, but I know that if I were not living at home, I would be living literally paycheck to paycheck. So it would be nice to actually have some extra money to be able to spend, to be able to give my daughter everything I want her to have. And right now, if I was living on my own, I couldn't do that.
No full-time worker should have to live in poverty. Fortunately, Alexis has support from her family, but not everyone has that access. Let's take a look at what someone that earns the minimum wage deals with financially. So here is the annual income of someone who works full-time on the minimum wage. Here is the average cost of rent within low-income areas. Here we have the utilities that compound with that rent. Here is the average cost of food annually, transportation annually, and this refers to all health-related expenses. Okay, let's just simplify things. Here's the minimum wage, and here's the cost of living that we just calculated. As you can see, individuals that earn the minimum wage have over a $7,000 annual deficit without federal aid. In 1938, in an attempt to offset the effects of the Great Depression, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt implemented the Fair Labor Standards Act, commonly known as the minimum wage. In doing this, he regulated the earnings of low-wage workers nationwide. This policy has flourished for nearly 80 years. Since its implementation, Congress and the President have worked jointly to increase the minimum wage 22 times. The average amount of time in between the past 3 increases was 12 months, but it has been 67 months since the minimum wage was last increased in 2009. It is clear that there is something wrong with the approach towards minimum wage that our government has recently adopted. But what is it? To learn more about the specifics of the minimum wage, we took a trip to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor to interview a professor at the Ross School of Business named Dr. Jagadish Sivadasan.
Changes in the past were one-time changes, so they would say it's been at let's say hypothetically at $7 for ages, let's increase it to $7.50, and what happens is inflation erodes this minimum wage basically, right? So effectively in real terms, the minimum wage doesn't increase at all much, or if it increases, then in a few months it's in real terms back to where it was.
In 1968, over 45 years ago, the minimum wage was $10.92 in 2014 dollars. Since then, due to inflation, the value of the minimum wage has dropped over $3 an hour. This happens because the minimum wage is not indexed for inflation, which means that the minimum wage would annually be adjusted so that the purchasing power does not lose value. We would like to think that Congress is capable of correcting such an obvious downfall in their own policy.
What could happen in terms of demand for labor itself? That is, this person has this job today which is $8. If you say he or she needs to get paid $10, would that reduce the number of jobs available for this person in the first place? Okay, then you're moving a person who was earning close to poverty lines and telling that person, no, you have to live completely off of welfare or something because this job is no longer available to you, right? And the tricky part is whether that happens or not. That is, if I move it from 8 to 10 or 7.25 to 10.10, how many jobs might be lost? I think everyone agrees in principle that jobs could be lost. There is a lot of debate on how much might be lost.
Most plausible estimate in the conventional wisdom was what has been interpreted as a relatively moderate decline in employment. And I think that this has led economists, this new work has led economists to seriously question that conventional wisdom.
29 states already have a minimum wage higher than the federal rate, and the effects on employment have been described as mild at most by leading economists. Of those 29 states, 13 states implemented their increase in the minimum wage on January 1st, 2014. According to a study done by the Center for Economic and Policy Research, of those 13 states, all but one saw employment growth, the exact opposite of what critics say should happen. More specifically, if we look at the West Coast towards states like Washington, California, and Nevada, all states that have a minimum wage notably higher than the federal rate, they have seen a nearly 3% increase in employment in the last fiscal year. But the rest of the nation is still struggling. People need help. They're working hard and not seeing the benefits.
One of the simplest and fastest ways to start helping folks get ahead is by raising the minimum wage. Ask yourself, could you live on $14,500 a year? That's what someone working full-time on the minimum wage makes. If they're raising kids, that's below the poverty line, and that's not right. The hard day's work deserves a fair day's pay. Right now, a worker on the federal minimum wage earns $7.25 an hour. It's time to raise that to $10.10 an hour.
Raising the minimum wage to $10.10 would lift the wages of nearly 28 million Americans nationwide. And this doesn't just affect teenagers and fast food workers. It will bring hope to millions of families that can barely make ends meet. People would no longer have over $7,000 in annual deficits. They would have excess money that they could spend at local businesses and increase economic growth nationwide. Nearly 3 million single mothers, just like Alexis, would be given a chance to provide for their children without living in constant fear of going broke. In Michigan, in our home state, raising the minimum wage would pay for 4 months of rent, 20 weeks of groceries, or 68 tanks of gas annually. America, Michigan, and Milan alike, people need a chance to breathe from the financial frustration that fills their everyday lives. Congress, support your president in bettering the lives of 28 million Americans, lifting nearly 5 million families out of poverty, and giving hope to people just like Alexis.